I put enough fentanyl to kill 10 people in my 9-month-old daughter's bottle. I am a 17-year-old mom with a 9-month-old daughter. My daughter and I had a bond like none other. We would spend every waking hour of the day together, and my life had gotten so much better since she entered it. However, one night in June of 2023, I was really tired and needed some sleep. But my daughter kept crying and keeping me awake. So I grabbed her bottle, filled it with baby formula, and then I added cocaine to it. I figured this would get her to sleep quickly, and then I would finally be able to fall asleep. However, what I didn't know is that the cocaine I had was laced with loads of fentanyl. Fentanyl is an extremely dangerous drug and kills thousands of people every week. I woke up from my nap, and that's when I saw my baby wasn't breathing. I tried CAR, but it was too late. After medical professionals examined her, they found she had enough fentanyl in her body to kill 10 people. I am currently accused of aggravated manslaughter as well as possession of a controlled substance. Due to my young age, my official name has not been yet released. Follow for more stories.
My son was hogging the Xbox, so I shot him multiple times. My name is Jaquana Butler, and this is my story. It was a normal summer evening in June of 2023. I had just gotten back from work and was looking for a way to de-stress. I figured playing some video games might be fun to do. However, when I walked in the house, I saw my son playing on the Xbox. No worries, I thought, I will just play it after he's done. However, hours passed and he was still playing. I asked him if I could use it, and he said no, I'm gonna be on it all night. I was overcome with rage because this was my house and I even bought him that Xbox. I walked into my room and grabbed my gun. That's when I walked back to my son, pointed it at him, and demanded he let me play the Xbox. He thought I was bluffing and ignored me. That's when I shot him multiple times. He laid on the ground, screaming and crying in pain. Maybe I overreacted a bit, I thought to myself. He begged me to call for help, so I did. Police and ambulances showed up, and when they did, I was arrested. I was charged with aggravated assault, but my trial is still ongoing. Follow for more stories. I got married, and then 8 days later, I pushed my husband off of a cliff. My name is Jordan Graham, and this is my story. On June 29th of 2013, I got married to my husband, Cody Johnson. He was madly in love and couldn't wait to spend the rest of his life with me. Or so he thought. What he didn't know is that I didn't like him, nor did I ever. All I wanted was to have a wedding so I could plan it and be the center of attention for a day. I expressed my regret for getting married the day after my wedding to one of my bridesmaids. Anyways, 8 days after being married, I surprised Cody and told him to put a blindfold on and that I would surprise him. I drove us to Glacier National Park and held his hand as I walked him towards a steep cliff. Then, as we neared the edge, I pushed as hard as I could with both hands, and he went straight off the cliff and plummeted 200 feet. The next day, I reported my husband missing, and I faked an email to myself from an anonymous person claiming they saw my husband accidentally fall off of the cliff a day before. However, after I was seen laughing and texting at his funeral, people got very suspicious of me. I ended up admitting to doing it and got 30 years in prison. Follow for more stories.
3 young boys ding-dong ditched my house, so I chased them down and murdered them. My name is Anurag Chandra, and this is my story. In January of 2020, it was late at night, and I heard the doorbell ring at my home. I looked out the window and saw 3 kids running away towards their car. I was worried for my family's safety, so I hopped in my own car and began speeding at over 100 miles per hour to chase those boys down. I finally caught up to them, and I rear-ended them as hard as I could as I was going extremely fast. My plan worked, and their car skidded off the road and went straight into a tree. The damage to the car looked pretty bad, so I drove away and went home. Later that day, I was apprehended by police, and they told me all 3 boys in the car were dead. I was charged with 3 counts of murder and 3 counts of attempted murder. However, I am testifying that I did this act out of self-defense, as I was scared for my family's life when I saw a young teen come up to my door and ring the doorbell. I also was extremely drunk during the incident. Unfortunately, I was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Follow for more stories.
I am called the real-life Gone Girl as I faked my abduction and wasted 5 years of police work. My name is Sherry Papini, and this is my crazy story. On November 2nd, 2016, I went out for a jog in my town of Redding, California when I disappeared. My husband came home from work later that afternoon and called the police when he realized I was missing. He used the Find My iPhone app to find my phone and earbuds, which were on the walking path about a mile from our home, but there was no sign of me. For 3 weeks, the search for me ensued, but no good leads were found. That is until I was found of the side of County Road 17 on Thanksgiving Day. I had restraints on my hands and was about 150 miles from where I had originally disappeared from. I claimed that I was taken by 2 Hispanic women, but escaped. No one suspected anything suspicious from me until the year 2022, when police accused me of lying about the entire case and that I was just with my ex-boyfriend the whole time. I was facing 25 years in prison, so I signed a plea deal admitting to my guilt. I received 18 months in prison and a fine of $300,000. Do you think my punishment was worthy? Follow for more stories.
I poisoned my victims, made them into soaps and cookies and distributed them in the neighborhood. My name is Leonine Cianciulli, better known as the soap maker of Correggio. In 1939, my son told me that he was going to join the Italian army, and that made me so worried. So I decided that to keep him safe, I would need to do some human sacrifices. I invited my first victim over for some wine, which I had spiked. Then I killed her with an axe. I would then cut her up into May pieces and add it to a pot with caustic soda, which I used to make my soaps. Then I would heat and mix them together until they made a soap-like consistency. After that, I repeated my exact same process with 2 more unsuspecting victims. I would then hand out and sell my soaps to the local people. They loved them. However, my luck ran out, and after an investigation I was quickly arrested and sentenced to 33 years in prison. I died in prison from a hemorrhage at age 79. To this day, the axes and vats I used in my murders are on display at the Criminology Museum of Rome. My story was also made into a Broadway show and a play. Follow for more stories.
He was supposed to keep me protected, but instead he did the exact opposite. My name is Sasha Samsudian, and the is my horrifying story. I lived in Orlando, Florida, and enjoyed soaking up the sunny Florida rays and being social with my friends. One night in October of 2015, my friends and I went out for drinks. My friends and I liked to have a good time, so after a while I was pretty intoxicated. We danced the night away and had a blast, but eventually it got late, so I drove home. I walked into my apartment, and that was last anyone had heard or seen of me. The next morning, after I didn't respond to any calls or texts, police were sent to my place for a welfare check. That is when they found me in my bed with marks and bruises on my neck indicating I had been strangled. Police searched for answers but didn't get any good leads until my upstairs neighbor told them that they had seen me being followed by the security guard of my apartment building, Stephen Duxbury. Police ran fingerprint tests with Dan found on me and found that it was a match to Duxbury. He was arrested and sentenced to 2 life sentences for my murder. Follow for more stories. I shot my Uber driver after he kidnapped me, but this story takes a turn that you will never guess. My name is Phoebe Kopus, and this is my story. On June 16th of 2023, I was on a vacation in El Paso, Texas. I live in Kentucky, so it was nice to see the beauty of Texas for a few days. Just after lunchtime, I called an Uber to come pick me up, and that when Daniel Piedra came and picked me up. The ride was going smoothly, and we were getting along until I noticed the street signs we were passing. The sign said, Juarez, Mexico. I realized I had been kidnapped and was going to be taken across the Mexico border. So I grabbed my shotgun out of my purse and shot my driver in the head. I called police and EMS and told them what happened. They informed me that the driver has passed, but this is where things take a turn. Since I was new to the area, I didn't realize that Mexico is literally across the street from El Paso. So the signs I was seeing for Mexico were correct, but only because the town I was in bordered it. After reviewing the man's Uber logs, they found that he was taking me on the correct path to my destination. Looking back on it, I probably should have asked him first what he was doing before I shot him. I am currently being held in jail on a $1.5 million bond. Follow for more stories.
I was one of the youngest billionaires in the world, and out of jealousy one of my employees murdered me and dismembered my body. Here is the tragic story. My name is Fahim Saleh. I was a 33-year-old tech mogul. I didn't know it at the time, but my assistant Tyrese Haspil was obsessed with me and my lifestyle. He would tell people that my $2 million apartment was his, and even tell people that my own dog was his. I realized that he had stolen over $100,000 from my company, and I fired him. As a result, he grew extremely jealous and angry when thinking about me. One night on my way to my condo in Manhattan, I didn't realize I was being followed by Tyrese. He was covered up in a black suit and followed me all the way to the condo. He subdued me with a taser and then stabbed me to death. The next day, he came back with a saw and dismembered my body, leaving it spread across my condo. After my body was discovered by my cousin, the police quickly learned of Tyrese and found him as the main suspect. In July of 2020, Tyrese was found guilty of murder. Follow for more stories.
After being mistakenly released from prison, I cut out my neighbor's heart and cooked it with potatoes to feed my family. My name is Lawrence Anderson, and this is my story. In 2017, I was given 20 years in prison in Oklahoma for drug charges. However, being the lucky man that I am, I was mistakenly released just 4 years later, in 2021. Just weeks after being released from prison, I committed one of the most hideous crimes. I broke into the home of my family's neighbor Andrea Blankenship and stabbed her over 40 times. I then cut out her eyes, stomach, and heart. I grabbed the heart and took it to my aunt and uncle's house. I cooked it with potatoes and tried to feed Ty to my family. After they refused to eat it, I stabbed my uncle and my 4-year-old granddaughter. I then attacked my aunt, but she miraculously survived after being badly injured. I was quickly arrested and confessed to everything. I was given life in prison without the possibility of parole.